The last time I saw Michael, it was a rainy afternoon in December, slate gray but bright, like Armageddon in the movies. Louise was there first. The machine forced his breathing with an asthmatic rasp. It was hard to believe he'd been dead for hours. His nurse was trying to get a hold of the doctor for permission to unplug him. That was about par for the fucking course for him in medicine. He didn't look dead, but his room was dark as always. I thought about checking his pulse. Maybe I touched his arm to see if it was cold. Felt like I was holding my breath until she turned off the goddamn machine, until I knew he was dead. I struggled for 5 years to find a way to speak for Michael. I don't mean a fucking eulogy. To honor someone, to honor yourself, you have to take the good and the bad, but you never really know a man. A person is like a quantum particle. It's impossible to know position or vector, but not both. So here's some facts, positions and vectors. Maybe you can figure him out. When I met him in 1984, he owned the Bijou. I got a minimum wage job working as a projectionist there. He lived illegally above the theater in an old office without a bathtub, shower, or kitchen. His entire wardrobe then was 3 jumpsuits, which he wore with collars popped. He told one of the other projectionists he was a bi kind of guy. Back then, he was a metrosexual, except he didn't shower too often. He owned a VW van, an MG, and a motorcycle. He dated a girl who worked for him, who was underage. He once fired a guy by calling his girlfriend while he was out of town. When he heard I broke up with my girlfriend, he gave me a t-shirt for a Steve Martin movie, The Lonely Guy. We'd hardly spoken, but he remembered that I was a fan. I still have the shirt. It was 20 years before I knew for sure his birthday was March 19th, same as mine, but he always wanted his birthday a couple days later, on the first day of spring. He changed his name from Robert McNeely to Michael Lamont. Michael was his grandfather's name, a name already given to his sister. He never knew his father. He was in the service twice. First time he learned Chinese, the second time he learned to fly a helicopter. He was always disappointed that the war in Vietnam ended before he saw combat. It was in the service he learned to be a projectionist and to smoke. He was fired from the post office twice. The first time was for wearing a black armband, protesting a war he believed in. They'd made somebody else take it off, and he thought that was bullshit. The second time he drove a forklift off a loading dock. He'd been married and divorced. Lamps, his ex-wife made, decorated the Bijou lobby for 20 years. He used to call the Bijou at random about the stuff he was reading. Once when he found out the company that made Junior Mints also made the pill. Once about an IUD, a battery that would complete a circuit and electrocute the sperm when the lady got her juice up. Apparently contraception fascinated him. Or it fascinates me, and that's why I remember. He was a huge Bowie fan, but he always pronounced it Bowie, maybe because he was from Texas. About words. It's not nuclear, it's nuclear. It's not caramel, it's caramel. And by the way, most people don't really know what fascism means. He was an alcoholic, he was a homophobe, he made art to meet girls. He said all art was made to meet girls. He went to Berlin when the wall came down. He sat at the Brandenburg Gate, sang Imagine, and cried. He was a lone protester in support of the first Iraq War. He wrote songs, mainly love songs, but mostly just the hook. He wanted to have a band called the Grumbles. That was such a great name, I was sworn to secrecy. So don't tell anyone. He tasted his shit once when he was on acid. He wanted to know what it meant when someone said, "That tastes like shit." He patented the peace pretzel, a pretzel shaped like a peace sign. Kept a gun over the visor of his Explorer in case he got carjacked. He was diagnosed with ALS at the beginning of the millennium. He was always late, really late, for movies. When he could still use his hands, he surfed the net a lot. He'd send links about things we'd discussed days or weeks or months before. When he moved into a group home, I cleaned out his house. I found a full case of light-up yo-yos with dead batteries and an invoice, a flight log, 20 or 30 transistor radios, 2 handguns and an assault rifle, a tube top, a laserdisc player, 4 quadraphonic record players, a guitar, a couple of keyboards, and a lot of cassette tapes of dreams, ideas, and song fragments. He left money to women who would no longer speak to him, and none to the woman who saved his business and managed his affairs at the end of his life. He was buried in a Rolling Stones tour jacket.